Can everybody see me all right? Um, right. I'd like to talk about the brain, your brain, my brain, every human's brain, and the way it works, or it should work.
Hey, Benoit, I'm
Yeah.
quickly going to interrupt you here. I'm so sorry. I think you're sharing the wrong screen. I think you're sharing the wrong screen. Oh, now it's full screen.
Okay. This is better then. All right. Okay. This is better. Short introduction about myself first. This is our program. Who am I? I am a UX designer and user researcher at POW. I have a background in graphic design and software development, more specifically .NET and web development. My previous experiences are at IPTO, Belgian Railway, Drop Solid, Sidewalk, Digital LB, and TBA, which are all agencies. And I have a special interest in human behavior, personal development, and psychology. I'm 46 years old, born in the 70s, child of the 80s. I managed to survive the 90s, and since the year 2000, I stopped counting. I got 3 children. My eldest daughter is 15. I've got a son and a little girl. I'm happily married to Krisha. As I said, I'm a designer by education. I changed to development because my interest grew there, and UX user experience has become my passion since a couple of years. I like to read. I love blues music. I'm a photographer, hobby photographer as well. Comic books and personal growth and development are my interests. This is where you can find me on LinkedIn and on Instagram. That's my photography Instagram. So please join and have a look. You'll find me there. Right. The human brain. I'll start with some numbers, basically. As we all know, our brain is part of the neural system. It's about 1.3 kilograms of weight. It's got 80 to 100 billion neuron cells, the cells of which it's composed, and the amount of neuron cells is approximately the amount of stars that we have in our galaxy. One neuron cell, or one neuron, is 4 microns of size, and that's about 0.004 millimeters of diameter. Every neuron is connected to approximately 10,000 other neurons, which makes 100 million billions of connections inside our brain. The male brain is slightly bigger, about 70-80 grams. The female brain has more connections, more specifically between the left and the right hemisphere. I shall draw no further conclusions from that. It's just a fact. Everybody knows that we humans are a product of evolution. It means that our human brain is designed to be fast and not corrupt. We'll go more into specifics and details about that subject in a minute. 95% of our human behavior is unconscious. We have no control. We do not actually think about 95% of the things we do or think or feel. When we look at this computer screen, as you all are doing right now, 97% of what you see is slightly blurry. The focus, that what your eyes are focusing on in the center, that's sharp. The rest is slightly blurry and getting more blurry as is going farther away from the center point. We have 70,000 thoughts a day, mostly, approximately, and most of these are unconscious. That means that most of what we think, we do not think of. We're not conscious of what we're thinking. 80% 80% of our human behavior is driven by the limbic system, and that's a system that focuses on reward generation and avoiding bad or negative experiences. We'll go further into that in a moment. But it means that the way we think, the way we feel, is mostly driven by our subconsciousness. And we are not aware of what we do or what we think most of the time. We think we are, but we're not. How does this work? A human brain is, as a matter of fact, composed of 3 brains. We have the reptilian complex, the limbic system, and the neocortex. This is a product of evolution. The reptilian complex is the oldest. The limbic system is the second in the evolution, and the neocortex, which is the largest part, is the last part of the biggest part of our brain. The triune brain. We start with the reptilian complex. It's the oldest and the smallest part of our brain. It controls reflexes. Fight, flight, freeze. These are the reflexes, the way we respond on stress situations, when we're in a situation of danger or fear. It also controls the basic functions in our body, the ones we do not control actively. Most of our heartbeat is a good example of that. The reptile brain is focused on survival, to stay alive. It doesn't think or remember. It only reacts, and these reactions are instinctively and automatically. It fulfills 2 basic needs, obviously: food, sex, passing generic material, and staying alive, as I said. What's the impact of this reptilian complex on our behavior? Most important thing, or one of the most important things, is the power of what I call the power of first impression. When a reptile sees something strange, something new, his automatic first reaction is negative because it's a possible danger. That's why the reptilian brain only knows that. It just only knows good versus bad, safe versus danger. It does not know empathy. Secondly, territorial behavior, protecting what is yours. His children, his food, his place, whatever. And it can only think in short terms. It gives an immediate result. It cannot wait. There is no time. It's working at the second. So when our reptilian brain takes the upper hand, you stop thinking logically. You cannot. You just react immediately. For example, best example is when somebody scares you at a certain moment. The first thing you do is you don't think, you just react. You start screaming. Your body does things. You get your skin reacts. Your breath holds. Your pupils go wide. That's our actions, body actions that are not controlled. They are immediate. When is another moment of example of reptilian behavior? Just think road rage. Try to get in a car and to hold them in traffic jams. The way people react there, or when there is an accident, or there might be an accident. Imagine yourself being aggressive behind the steering wheel. I know I suffer from that reaction sometimes. It's what my wife sometimes said. That's your reptilian brain taking over, Benoit. And she's right. But it's an instinct. The second part is the limbic system, and that's called the mammalian brain. It's slightly larger. It's a bit younger, but it still works on short term. This is the part where our emotions and our social behavior is controlled. This is why some mammals are solitary, right? But other mammals live in groups or live in herds. It gives the mammalian brain, or the limbic system, gives your experience an emotional dimension. Some memories are associated with feeling good. Some memories are associated with fear, with happiness, with sadness. You can all imagine experience you've lived yourself, and there is always an emotional connection to that. It creates an emotional memory. You remember situations and you remember the emotions you had with that. For instance, that of my grandfather a couple of years ago, I remember that day. I still feel the emotions when I think of him right now. It's not as explicit as it was at the time, but still, I still feel there is still some sadness here. The mammalian brain doesn't talk, doesn't speak, but it reacts on body language. Look at your dog. The way your dog answers, the way his ears are set, the way his hair is, the way his tail reacts. If he's happy, if he's scared, if he's dominant, if he's aggressive, you can all see that by the way he reacts, behaves, the way his body is behaving. Most important thing in this context, in the context of UX, is that the mammalian brain regulates and rewards social behavior by excreting dopamine. And dopamine is a hormone or a neurotransmitter, which plays a very important role in reward-motivated behavior on executive functions, on arousal, sexual or other, motivation, and fulfilling desire. Basically, this is a very important issue, a very important thing. Dopamine is essentially a decision-making system. It what controls most part of the decisions we make. I'll go more into detail a bit further on. The other effects of the limbic system on our behavior is the feeling of safety first, then competence. When somebody contacts you for the first time and has a good impression, he's nice, he's gentle, you have a good feeling about this person, you'll believe what he says, even what he says is utter bullshit. But you will believe what he says because his first impression is he's made you feel safe. The limbic system, the core of the limbic system is the amygdala. We talked about neurotransmitters and dopamine. The amygdala, which is the primary role in this decision-making system, it processes our memory and it processes our emotional responses to situations, including fear, anxiety, and aggression. It's also a sluice for impulses, over and under stimulation. For example, ADHD patients, ASS or Tourette patients have what I call ill-functioning filters. They're easily distracted. They have a few inhibitions. I've got a son who's ADHD. And for example, I can talk to him. I can tell him very important things, and then he sees that our cat coming out of into the living. I completely forgot what I'm saying because he's focused on the cat. People with normal, but I don't like to use the term normal, but without ADHD, can see the cat, but they are focusing on what I'm telling, so they continue listening. My son is gone. I can call him back, and he's remember immediately what I've to refocus. But that moment, that the impression of the view of the cat coming into the living makes that his attention is thrown away to something else. The last part that I want to talk about is the human brain, which is the largest part. It's the youngest part as well. It's about 200,000 years old. And it functions 5 times slower than the reptilian complex, which is the oldest. The human brain is what makes us human, obviously, and what makes us different from pretty much every animal. Because this is where language is developed. This is where different forms of learning are developed. This is where sophisticated emotions are grown. This is where we learn to think abstractly, and we learn to think ethically. What is good? What is bad? What is right? What is wrong? I should do this. I should do that. If I do this, then I might hurt somebody, so I won't do it. Otherwise, that kind of reflexes thinking. Reflex is a bad word. That kind of thinking is developed in the human brain. Our impulses, which we get from the limbic system, we are able to classify them, to judge them, and to select them. We can select where we respond to. We can decide to, I've seen something, I'm not going to, like the example of my son, somebody without HD can just decide, okay, I've seen it, I'm not going to react to it. I'm going to focus on what I'm doing. When I'm on the street walking, there is another couple shouting at the other side of the door, on the other side of the street. I can decide not to react to them, not to look, just to ignore them. Because I think my actions, I think through what I'm going to do. Last thing that is, there's more, but the last thing I put in my slides is this is why we can define long-term planning and thinking. We can think about what we're going to do tomorrow, next week, next year, after my retirement, in a couple of years, whatever. But a mammal does not think on the long term. He only thinks about now. A reptile is even worse. He doesn't know tomorrow exists. Humans, we actually do. A human brain, what's the impact on behavior for it? The human brain can help us getting out of that reptile brain by finding an excuse or an explanation. For example, a very good example that we had is a couple of years ago, there was a study performed by a professor at an American university. I'm not sure which one it was. That had the situation was this: there was a couple of people waiting at the copy center, waiting to make photocopy. They were in the queue on different locations, and he had a student jump to the first place, pushing everybody aside, just to make photocopies. And he had 3 different reactions. First reaction, because people in the queue would obviously react because hey, what's going on? His first reaction was, "I'm sorry, I don't have much time. I only have got a few photocopies. Can I strip through?" His second reaction was, "I'm sorry, I need to photocopy. Can I get through?" And the third reaction was, "I'm sorry, I only have a couple of times. A short moment. Can I get through? Because I'm very in a hurry and I got to get to my sister at the hospital." The first explanation is not logic, because what he's saying is, I got to make a photocopy. Yeah, obviously, it's a photocopy machine. Everybody needs to go to photocopy, so that's not an excuse to get through. And yet, people seem to accept it. Second excuse was, I just need to get through. It was a very aggressive way of putting himself there. Obviously, people wouldn't react to it. People wouldn't accept it. They would stay angry. When they are angry, they were in their reptilian brain. So That reaction was, he couldn't get through. The last reaction was an emotional one. They gave an emotional excuse, which made sense. I'm sorry, I don't have much time. Can I get through? Because I'm in a hurry and something very important is waiting for me. The strange thing is that obviously the second reaction, the second excuse wasn't accepted. The first excuse, which wasn't logic at all, was accepted as well. Was accepted, sorry. And the third one was accepted very well. So you don't need, and this explained the conclusion of this study was that to get out of that reptilian complex, people were angry because what he's doing is he's getting in front of everybody. From the moment on, there is an explanation is given. People are thinking, are getting out of that reptilian complex, and emotions are calming down. The explanation can be utter crap, but yet the people were getting calmer and calmer and calmer. Afterwards, they start thinking, and what he says is not logic, but they were already out of their reptilian reactions. Another impact on our behavior is it helps us to turn off some impulses or to choose to what reaction we will react. We can focus, we can set attention, and we can have concentration on what we're doing. We set priorities. For instance, I have 3 children, but this is this is my second marriage. My children are from my first marriage. They're here now at the house, but last week they had their final year tests, and they were at their mother's house. So I didn't see them, I didn't hear them. But since they were having tests for the end of the year, I was asking them by WhatsApp or messages hey, how has your exam been? How has your test been? Half of the time I didn't get any reactions. That hurts because I was worried. How did your test go? I wanted to know. I care. My first reaction was to be, well, they don't like me. They're more happy with their mother. They don't need me. They don't want me. When I start thinking about that, I said, oh, wait a minute. My oldest daughter is 15. She's a teenager. What did I think that they care about their dad? They're the last one to contact if they have a problem. They go to friends, they go to anybody, but they're not their dad. When they came back Sunday evening here, they were very happy. They were happy to see me. They were happy that they talked hours and hours and hours, telling how the exams were being, how the last week was being. So the worries I had of they don't like me, they don't want me, they don't need me, they weren't absolutely true. The examples that I've been giving right now show that our 3 brains very much interact with each other. Each brain has an impact on the other 2, and obviously, because it has an impact on the other brains, it has impact on our behavior. Somewhere in a book, I saw this very good example, a very good image, metaphor to describe the way it works. So our brain, consider our brain to be a ship, and the reptilian complex and the limbic system are the sailors, and the amygdala sits in the crow's nest at the top of the mast, and the human brain is a captain who takes decisions. When danger appears, the amygdala immediately takes control. We lose the ability of flexible thinking, or we lose the ability of our memory in a very short notice. We just react. When the danger is extreme, or we are extremely hurt, then it's not even the limbic system that takes over; it's the reptilian complex that takes over. We react impulsively. We lose complete control. This is what happens at a fight, at a car accident. You lose control of your actions. This is why we need our human brain, the neocortex, to counter it. Second part, I've told you that our limbic system is in charge. I've told you that the limbic system is where the emotions are stored. This is, and obviously emotions are what often leads us. They can be positive, appreciation, positive evolution, positive stimulation, nudging, which is not the same as manipulation, because nudging is more subtle. Manipulation is getting someone in a direction he doesn't really want. Nudging is somebody pushing in the direction that he might go, is interested in. Negatively, our emotions can take us hostage. We start to think irrationally to protect ourselves. And why is that? Because our human brain, when we use it, it costs energy. And we're in a situation of danger, so we need every energy we have to run away or to fight or whatever, or to stay as still as we can, fight, flight, freeze. So we make use of shortcuts, which are stored in that limbic system. Here again, we need our limbic, our neocortex to get us out of there, to start thinking from home. What's the best reaction? What could I do best now in this situation, or in this the example of my children? My eldest daughter is the fact that I was thinking she's not, she doesn't like me, she doesn't want me anymore. She's more, that's an emotion of sadness that takes me hostages, and it starts, gets me thinking, but on a completely wrong level, in a completely wrong direction. But it's a shortcut. Well, since this is a UX talk, what's all got this to do with the price of tea in China? Let's have a first short recap. Our brain functions have been created thousands of years ago to respond to a hostile environment. Our brain was designed for survival, not for go shopping. But since our brain functions, as we said, are for a big part still the same as they were thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago, understanding them in order to design a user experience is, for me, fundamental. Since 95% of our behavior is unconscious, we need to know the mechanisms behind it. And last of it, 80% of our user behavior is conditioned by the limbic system, which will promote reward generating behaviors, dopamine, and avoid inconvenience generating behaviors, avoiding hurt, pain, sadness, etc. For me, UX is about directing and influencing behavior. We all are in software and web development, but UX has always has impact on the way a store is set up, the way a train station is set up, the way your car, the way when you drive, your car is set up. So it has much more to do than only product design or web design or app design. First thing that we need to remember as well is that the user experience is never absolute, is always relative. We can think of the best possible conditions to use that to use our product, but we don't have any clue on the context, or we're not sure of the context in which that particular user will use it. You can imagine his situation, you can imagine his desk, you can imagine the way where he is, but we don't have any impact on how he feels. Is he happy? If he's happy, if he's sad, if he had just a fight with his wife, we'd have no idea. So what we know is always relative. Secondly, it's pretty obvious, but yet different people have different emotions and different motivations. My brother reacts completely different on the same situations. he'll be more relaxed and more calm. I'll be more expressive, more explosive as well. And yet we come from the same family. We have pretty much the same genes because both children of the same parents, but react different to a situation. We have different emotions and we have different motivations. What I'm doing is not he's not interested in the slightest part, but and vice versa. But still, these emotions and these motivations is what gets us moving. Last last item is that talking about user experience is when the user gets a product, he always has an expectation. He has an idea of what he expects, and he wants to fulfill a need, whether it be a shopping, whether it be finding his way, whatever. For me, UX is therefore the relationship between the experience that is anticipated by the user's brain and the effective experience that he will experience, obviously, while using a service or two. Which gets me to the point that the way you think, how you think, is more important than what you think. The way you approach a problem is, for me, far more important than what is in my toolbox. There are a shitload of tools. Some of them are very good, some are very excellent, some are shit, but it's just a tool, and they're just for use. When I make wireframes, then I use Figma or Axure, whatever, but I could just as well use pen and paper. The thing that I'm keep myself, what I'm thinking of all the time is, what is the result I want to achieve? And the tool is just a way of getting there. European football European football championships are right now. Give me the same shoes as Eden Hazard or Kevin De Bruyne, I'll still be a shit soccer player, even if I have the same shoes that he has. They will both be still better at football, at soccer, on their flip flops. For me, user experience is an attitude. It's just not a job or a bunch of tools. I focus on behavior, not on objects. This is pretty much an open door. I know, but still, what is it that you want the user to do? What is it that he needs, or what is it that you don't want him to do? What you don't want him to get lost in the website? You don't want him to get lost in a shopping flow. How can I help him as much as I can to achieve what he wants to get, what he wants to achieve? Therefore, I must think of the adequate behavior that has a chance to come true. When I'm sure about that behavior, when I'm sure about what I want him to do, then I will start designing the objects that will trigger the execution of this behavior. And last one is, for me, one of the most important ones. Focus on compensation and reward. We've seen that 80% of our decisions is coming from the limbic system, which focuses on compensation, on reward, on feeling good, or feeling successful, or feeling accepted. UX, that's for me the key of efficient UX design, is using that reward system of your brain. As I said, there is an expectation of the user, and he wants to fulfill a need. And since this limbic system is mostly unconscious, even before he has taken any action, his brain has already set a level of reward that he expects from it. So that's what we should focus on. I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm very interested in this subject. I've read a couple of books of it. These are the books that I've read, most of them. I'm not probably this slideshow will be shared somewhere. You'll find the titles and the links to bookstore where you can find them, Amazon or bol.com. So more books, and there is a few websites where I find my my information and my sources. I hope I taught you, learned you something. I was very happy to tell you this, to share my knowledge, to share what my fascination in a sense. So I think that we're ready for some Q&A.
Hey, Benoit, thanks so much for sharing.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, and thanks for sharing the reading list at the end. Actually, I noted down "Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow" as you were talking about the different areas of the brain as one of the more influential books that I've read when it comes to UX design. Fantastic, and especially with this last year of COVID, thinking about resilience and trying to see things that that we normally wouldn't see with our Homo sapien brains. I know that there's sort of some theory around that, like the next book that he wrote, I think, was about black swans, and using your Homo sapien brain to kind of analyze what your reptilian brain takes for granted, and confronting it and analyzing it and seeing if we can see these things in a different way in order to predict chaotic events and things like that. I think it's a really fascinating practice. So
it absolutely is. I've not read that book about black swans yet. It's on my bucket list or my reading list. What I've heard of it is that the way I understand this is that these black swans is focusing on the safety that everybody is looking for.
It's about unpredictable events, chaotic events, like COVID-19 is kind of a classic example, things like that. So, or even World War I, like one person gets shot and sets off a cataclysmic sequence of events that no one could have predicted. But they talk about using those sort of techniques of circumventing or reanalyzing the reptilian instincts with your Homo sapien brain. I think it's fascinating, and
I think it's very much.
Neuroscience continues to be a really influential influence on UX work and what we do as professionals. So thank you so much for your talk. We don't have a lot of time for Q&A, so I'm actually just going to say, let's kick it over to the sessions. We've set up a dedicated a session for you. So if anyone wants to talk to you about your talk, or if you want to ask your questions there, please find Benoit there. But let's go ahead and take like a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 8 o'clock, and we'll hear from Jan Mons about artificial intelligence and UX. But thank you again for sharing your knowledge and joining us tonight. Okay? All right. See you all in 10 minutes. Bye-bye.